I spent 5 years studying Spanish in school, then I stopped completely. And recently, deep into learning Korean, I challenged myself to build a plan if one day I wanted to learn Spanish again. I know this day will come after Korean. Knowing the system, I want to apply them to Spanish. So I map the whole thing out, stage by stage. And that's exactly what I'm going to deal with you in this video. Since I finished school, I didn't speak a single word in Spanish. When I'm thinking back, all this year, all these hundreds of hours spent for learning Spanish for nothing. All of that not for even a solid basic skills to present myself. How frustrating it is. And now I decided to change the situation. Okay, it would be so cool to speak Spanish, travel the world, speak to people, but I needed a stronger why, a good plan that keeps me motivated. So I challenged myself to succeed the relationship I started with Spanish at school. In this video, I will show you how I apply the system I use to learn Korean to Spanish. I will go through a complete plan from false beginner to intermediate built on the exercises I do every day. So how did I start to learn Spanish? Regarding the educational system in France, I started to learn my first language, so English, when I was 9 or 10 years old. And regarding my second language, so Spanish, I started to learn it when I was in 8th grade. We had the choice between Spanish and German, and Spanish was the most popular language because we knew as kids if we choose Spanish, we had a travel plan in Madrid, and this was a very sexy destination for a kid. So nearly 95% of kids choose Spanish. I remember the time I learned Spanish, I was very active in class, I was participating, I was doing my homework, but the main problem was the approach. It was the classic school approach of learning languages, so a lot of grammar, a lot of list of words that you have to memorize, you have to do some exercises. We were doing a bit of speaking in class, but definitely we were lacking a lot of input. After finishing high school, I entered engineering studies for 5 years to reach a Master 2 level. During the first 2 years, we have a very intense preparation and Spanish was an option. And my level was so low after trying a test that I decided to quit Spanish to focus on the essentials. So after that, I never touched Spanish of my life. So why do I want to learn Spanish again? Well, I see it like a revenge. By the past, I didn't have a strong why. I was learning Spanish with not very effective methods, but I spent a lot of hours learning Spanish, and also I had a travel in Madrid, so I practiced speaking the language, Spanish, in Madrid for maybe a week, and it was very pleasant. And now I am fluent in English, I am learning Korean, and also I have more knowledge on how to learn the language properly. So now I'm going to give you the reason why I want to learn Spanish again. If you are in the same process, you are building your why, I can recommend you to watch this video on how to choose your first language that I made a few months ago. But regarding myself, the first reason is Spain is a close country to France, so I can go anywhere I want and have experiences with the locals. I can also travel and live experiences in South America. I don't need to start from zero since I already started to learn the language at school. Also, French and Spanish are very similar language with a bunch of common words, so the process will be easier, I'm sure, than Korean. Also, it's an intellectual challenge to learn a fourth language, and I'm sure I will have a lot of fun by doing it. It will be also an occasion to discover new culture through this language. And also, Spanish is the fourth most spoken language in the world. We have roughly 550 million of people that can speak the language, and among them 480 million of native speakers. After speaking of my why, I want now to define my goals in this plan. there will be three main objectives. The first one will be to hold a conversation of 30 minutes with a native speaker in a very easy way. The second, to get a B2 upper intermediate level, maybe with a test exam, for example the DELE, Diplomas de Español como Lengua, Extranjera. And the third point will be to listen content easily. Before jumping into the plan, I want to share with you my estimated numbers of hours that I already spent learning Spanish when I was at school. In school, I spent 2 hours per week for 5 years to learn Spanish. So we have 52 weeks per year. If we remove 15 weeks per year, after doing the calculation, we end up with 370 hours of learning Spanish. Also, I can count the work that I've done, like homeworks. So I took an assumption of 30 minutes per week. That gives me 90 hours more of studying. And having the total number of hours, I reach 450 hours. So all these hours, of course, were not like 100% effective hours spent studying the language, but they gave me a good number before jumping myself to the plan. I know where I should start again. So at the beginner stage, or should I rather say a false beginner stage regarding myself, I will focus on 3 main points. The first one, to work on your pronunciation. The second one, to build up your vocabulary. And the third point will be to master the basic grammar rules. Regarding the resources for listening, I will rather base my listening on YouTube with 3 main channels. The first one, Easy Spanish. The concept is based on street interviews with real people. We are all levels that are covered. Will it be from the beginner stage through the intermediate and also the advanced Spanish learners. Videos are based on real conversation and podcast. Subtitles are both in English and Spanish, and so it's really easy to understand the video with all this information. And finally, we have playlists that are available for all levels in the channel, beginning from A1. The second channel is Spanish After Hours. This is a channel held by a Latina American girl making podcasts, so with a different accent than the first channel. She targets low intermediate learners, so if you are between A2 and B1 levels, that's a perfect content to watch. She has a lot of videos on learning language tips, as well as explanation about the Spanish language, and all her videos are in Spanish. Regarding the third channel, I will use Spring Spanish. So this is a channel held by Latina American teachers dedicated to beginner or low intermediate learners. They have a concept based on listen, all in Spanish. They deal with various subjects. They use a lot of short phrases or chunks. They have also real-life conversation with Spanish-speaking people. And subtitles are also both in English and Spanish. So this will help you to understand all these videos at this level. At the beginner stage, pronunciation is the critical skill you want to work a lot. Regarding myself, I will do 2 main exercises. Will it be shadowing exercise or either phonetic training? That I already made a video on this subject with a concrete example. But the idea is to take a small listening content, listen and repeat until matching perfectly the tone and rhythm. Pronunciation is the main thing that will fossilize rapidly. So when you start learning a language, be sure that you work a lot on that to get understood by native speaker. Because if you speak the language, but you say the words in a very bad way, nobody is going to understand you and you are going to feel very frustrated. So don't skip the pronunciation training at the beginner stage. On the vocabulary step, I will make things very simple. I will rather use Enki with a pre-computed desk of 5,000 words. I'm using audio file and images, so I would just study the flashcard in this way. Or I will rather use an application on my phone like Memrise or Duolingo and just study the vocabulary that match my current Spanish level. And that will be enough. On the grammar points, I will use listening content or either do screenshot when there is a grammar point that I don't fully grasp. And then I will use AI to explain me the grammar rules, give me some example, or even for making sentences and correct myself. But I will not do a lot of more things regarding grammar. I'm pretty sure that it's something that go along the way with the content you are going to listen or watch. For information, here are 2 plans regarding the beginner stage. At some point, drilling vocabulary and pronunciation stop being the bottleneck. Now you need to use it. The main goal of the intermediate stage is to build a massive exposure to real Spanish combined with your first real conversation. On this stage, I will mainly focus on listening and speaking. I will review as well the vocabulary that I will acquire during my speaking session. And if I have time, I will maybe read a bit some content that truly interests me. At this stage, listening has to be the core habit that you want to implement in your daily life by watching content that truly match your center of interest. Will it be cooking, culture, sports, or lifestyle, whatsoever. Regarding my listening practice, I will use several formats, so maybe YouTube or Netflix. And on this platform, I will use a tool that is called Language Reactor that will enable me to parse the subtitle of the video, and on one click on the word that I don't know, I could directly see the definition in my native language, will it be in English or French, and this will ease the process of watching content and make all the content that I want to watch comprehensible friendly. So this tool is available on YouTube. You can use it also on Netflix if you want to watch a series or a show that you are interested in. If you want to use other platform, I will recommend you to use translation AI power tool like, for example, fluency, that will generate smart and dual subtitle and so make the content comprehensible friendly. At the intermediate stage, you also want to introduce some speaking practice in your daily routine, even if you don't plan to travel to a Spanish-speaking country in a few months. Why? Having a speaking practice, even small but consistent, will build and keep your motivation. You will also develop your active vocabulary to express yourself in a very natural way. And also, you will develop the confidence through volume. Even if you just speak 30 minutes per week, on 1 year, at the end of 1 year of practice, you will have built 25 hours of speaking practice. And so when you speak in front of native Spanish speakers, you will have more confidence and you could express yourself very naturally. So I can see 3 main options if you want to develop your speaking practice. The first one is through the shadowing exercise that I mentioned in the beginner stage. You are going to work on your pronunciation, your rhythm, and also try different accents and see the slight differences between the accents. But don't rely just on this practice. Also try to find a tutor to have some feedback on your practice, because knowing what mistakes you are doing when you speak, you are going to correct them and then progress very rapidly. But if you find a tutor, try to maybe speak 1 hour per week. Try try to make 2 sessions of 30 minutes. But follow this rule when you find a tutor. First, Ask him or her to correct your mistake. 2. Try to speak Spanish all the time if possible and switch to English or your native language when you have some words or some sentences that are very hard to produce. And the last point is to ask to note the vocabulary that you don't know to save it later and maybe review it through your Anki decks. Now, after all of that, if you have remaining study time, try to use it for reading. By reading things that truly interest you. Will it be newspaper, short stories, kid stories, or blogs? Another good way to practice your reading is to read maybe novels or content that you already read in your native language. Why? Because you already have the context of the thing you want to read, and so all the story will already be comprehensible for you. And in this context, it will be very easy to acquire the new vocabulary in Spanish. For information, here are 2 plans that you can use. To be honest, this video is just a short message to the future me that already succeeded in reaching the level of Korean he wants. I hope the strategy and materials that I have introduced in this video will be useful for you. You have an overview of the complete plan that I will personally use if I was a beginner in Spanish or an intermediate learner. So now, if you have some eagerness to start to learn Spanish for the first time or the second time, now it's time to take actions. I hope this video gave you some interesting insight on how to learn Spanish with a complete plan from the beginner stage to the intermediate stage. If you like this video, please give me a like, post a comment, this will be very useful for me, and I see you guys in another video. Bye!